Welcome to The Explainer, everybody. Today we are absolutely tearing into the ultimate 2026 FIFA World Cup knockout bracket. We're breaking down the wild, comprehensive, and honestly fascinating predictions made by CBS Sports soccer analyst Michael Lahad. Now, we all know tournament football is beautifully chaotic, right? But Lahad has actually mapped out a knockout stage that is just packed with revenge, redemption, and some seriously jaw-dropping upsets. I'm so thrilled to guide you through exactly how he predicts this massive tournament is going to unfold.
Okay, let's just jump right in by looking at what might be the boldest claim of the entire analysis. Just think about this number for a second. 25 goals. Lahad believes that Lionel Messi, at 39 years old, isn't just going to show up to the 2026 World Cup for a farewell tour. No, he is predicting a legendary, logic-defying masterclass. Keep this massive prediction in the back of your mind as we go through the bracket, because the ripple effects of a dominant Argentina are huge.
So here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll start with 1, setting the knockout stage. Then move into 2, the USMNT's deep run. 3, quarterfinal upsets and clashes. 4, the grand finale rematch. And finally, 5, Golden Boot and awards.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, setting the knockout stage, surviving the early chaos.
You know, when you start with 32 teams in a single elimination format, the pace is just rapid fire. Storylines develop in the absolute blink of an eye. The early rounds give us this mix of expected dominance and really fascinating tactical victories. The heavyweights, well, they do what heavyweights do. Germany sends Paraguay packing, France easily bids bonjour and au revoir to Sweden, and Spain just rolls past Australia. But there are some notable standout winners too. Morocco leverages their incredible talent, including their Dutch-born players and their €50 million man Ismail Saibarai, to push past the Netherlands and Canada. Meanwhile, Portugal and Brazil safely navigate their early tests.
The sheer personality in these early matchups is what makes this so fun. We've got Spain's young phenom Lamine Yamal out there absolutely cooking defenders. Then, massive upset alert here, Ivory Coast is predicted to shock Norway. They do this by exploiting a hampered Norwegian squad dealing with an injured fullback. And you've got to love the broadcaster-style monikers Lahad uses, like Switzerland eliminating Algeria in what he dubs the Vladimir Petkovic derby, named after the coach going up against his former Swiss squad. It's exactly these quirky, narrative-rich games that make the World Cup so special.
Let's move on to Section 2, the USMT's deep run. Host nation hopes.
Under Mauricio Pochettino, the pressure on the U.S. as a host nation is immense, and their mapped-out journey is packed with drama. Step 1, a solid victory over Bosnia, which gets that home crowd on full tilt. But Step 2 is where the magic really happens. The U.S. faces Belgium, literally the team that knocked them out in a heartbreaker back in 2014. Lahad predicts the U.S. will successfully slay those ghosts of 2014, with Christian Pulisic and Folarin Balogun getting the crucial goals. Unfortunately, Step 3 is where the dream ends. A formidable, simply too good Spanish side knocks them out in the quarterfinals.
But let me be super clear about what this means for American fans. Even with a quarterfinal exit, Lahad stresses that this is something to be incredibly proud of. This run represents a reinstated belief and total player buy-in. Given the turbulence the team experienced prior to this tournament cycle, reaching the final 8 of a home World Cup under Pochettino, that represents a massive achievement and a total paradigm shift for the public's belief in U.S. soccer. Which brings us to Section 3, quarterfinal upsets and clashes. The heavyweights collide.
As the bracket narrows and those Cinderella stories come to an end, we see the true physiological chess match of international football emerge. Look at this matchup. Lahad calls the Mexico versus Ecuador game the El Smog Derby. Now, you might think Mexico playing in the smog of Mexico City gives them this massive home field edge, right? But Ecuador plays their home games in Quito, which is at an incredibly high altitude. This means the grueling conditions actually won't affect Ecuador the way Mexico hopes, ultimately leading to an Ecuadorian victory. It's a fascinating example of geographical advantage totally neutralizing a home turf element. Then, we get a titanic clash of styles. You have Brazil's pure samba sizzle, led by the dazzling Vini Jr., matched up against England. Lahad emphasizes England's steel reserve, anchored by guys like Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, all masterminded by Thomas Tuchel, who is affectionately, or maybe jokingly, known as Tommy Tickles in the UK. According to this prediction, that English tactical grit and steel in the midfield will stifle the Brazilian flair, pushing the Three Lions through.
The rest of the quarterfinal and semifinal results are just as high stakes, so let's run through them. France puts an end to Morocco's incredible Cinderella run. Spain officially ends Cristiano Ronaldo's World Cup era, beating a Portuguese side that Lahoud actually calls the most overrated in the tournament. Ouch. Argentina beats Colombia in a rematch of the 2024 Copa America final, sending a retiring James Rodriguez home. And finally, Argentina overcomes England in an absolutely massive historical footballing rivalry on the pitch to punch their ticket to the final.
Setting us up perfectly for Section 4, the grand finale rematch, history repeating.
So we've arrived at the climax of the tournament, what Lahoud calls the cash money game. And this prediction relies on a fascinating algorithm of World Cup history. There has only been one other time where two consecutive finalists met in back-to-back World Cups. Back in 1986, Argentina beat West Germany. Then in 1990, West Germany got their revenge. Fast forward to today. In 2022, Argentina beat France. If history repeats itself through this algorithmic pattern, 2026 is the year France gets their ultimate revenge against Argentina.
And that is exactly what this bracket predicts. France wins the 2026 World Cup. But here is the really key detail. They win it in regulation time. After the heartbreak of that penalty shootout in 2022, Kylian Mbappé takes matters into his own hands. There will be no shootout this time around. France is going to finish the job within the 90 minutes.
But the hero of the final isn't just Mbappé. We are looking at the ultimate redemption arc for Ousmane Dembélé. You might remember, in the 2022 final, Dembélé had a notoriously poor performance. Well, Lahoud predicts that by 2026, Dembélé will have evolved from an underachiever into a Ballon d'Or winner, stepping up to be the MVP for France and lifting the trophy. It's just a spectacular personal turnaround.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, Golden Boot and Awards. Individual Glory.
The tournament might be won by France, but the individual glory is heavily skewed toward a familiar face who just refuses to slow down. 39. At 39 years of age, Lionel Messi isn't just participating. As we touched on at the very beginning, he is predicted to not just win the Golden Boot, but to absolutely shatter the record for most goals by a player in World Cup history. Lahoud predicts Messi will put the record out of reach for eons to come. So even in defeat in the final, his individual performance is going to be nothing short of mythological.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We've seen the logic, the historical algorithm connecting the 80s to today, the predicted upsets, the heartbreak, and the redemption arcs. But the beautiful game is famously unpredictable. So I have to ask you, do you buy into this algorithm of history repeating itself with France and Argentina? Or is this knockout bracket absolutely destined to bust? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep watching, and we'll see you next time.